What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Supergirl Season 4, Episode 10, titled Suspicious Minds. This episode continues where Episode 8 left off, because Episode 9 did kind of get in the middle of that. I said the same thing for The Flash, Season 5, Episode 10. Probably will say the same thing for Arrow Season 7, Episode 10. The cliffhanger of Episode 8 of all these shows is what's going to really drive the rest of the seasons, at least in one or two storylines. For Supergirl, it was the President, the DEO, and Colonel Haley were asking her to reveal her identity to the world. Now, I personally didn't really like that cliffhanger for a lot of reasons, mainly because I thought the DEO already knew her identity, and on top of that, the government should at least know her identity. I mean, it's not a very well-kept secret. It's the same thing for Superman. All they do is wear a pair of glasses, and not even when they're a superhero, so I don't think it's a very well-kept secret, and I think it's a little bit better kept for Superman, because at least he changes the way he acts and the way he slouches down. As Clark Kent, he's very mild-mannered. For Supergirl, I think Kara kind of acts basically the same as Supergirl, so that is not a very well-kept secret. I would think the government knows. Now, the DEO knowing was something that was addressed in this episode, which I did kind of like. I mean, that was one thing I really didn't like about the cliffhanger in Episode 8, which is that it looked like the DEO didn't know her identity either, which, going off of what we've seen from the show, at least a couple of them definitely do, if not for all of them. Now, I do think that more of them should have known. I think that all of them should really know. It's not a well-kept secret, especially when Kara is just walking around in the DEO, so I thought that they should know, but at least they addressed that some of them do know her identity, and I like that that was addressed in this episode. Still not a very good cliffhanger, because the government should definitely know her identity either way. But the storyline that came out of that cliffhanger in this episode, with Haley trying to find out Supergirl's identity, was interrogating all of these agents, which obviously led to, in the end, them erasing all of their minds. Now, I didn't really dislike this storyline at all. I didn't love it either, but it wasn't bad. I do think that there were some good moments, specifically when Colonel Haley did finally find out Kara's identity. That was a pretty good and unexpected moment. That being said, they didn't really feel the repercussions of that moment whatsoever. They just erased her mind, which seems like such an easy way out of the situation. Erasing the agents' minds makes a lot of sense, and erasing Alex's mind is kind of like the most interesting thing they've ever done with Alex Danvers as a character, but erasing Colonel Haley's mind really makes her as a character seem so much less scary than she was before. I don't like Colonel Haley. I don't like that they introduced a new original character, but I do kind of like her involvement in this storyline of her interrogating all these agents, trying to find out Supergirl's identity at any cost. But when they erased her mind, it makes all of that really no purpose whatsoever. Really, absolutely no purpose to her character at this point. So that's one thing I didn't like about this episode, a lot, the erasing of all these characters' minds, or at least Colonel Haley. Like I said, with the erasing of Alex's mind is probably the most interesting thing they've ever done with the character, because except for coming out as gay, which came out of nowhere, and being in a relationship with Maggie, Alex has been the exact same character she has been since the first episode of the show. She hasn't changed at all, in my opinion. She hasn't gotten any character development whatsoever, in my opinion, and I don't think she's a character that needs to be around anymore either. But changing this up and making it so that she loses her memory of Supergirl and Kara being the same person is probably the most interesting thing they've ever done with the character. Now, from the trailer, it looks kind of temporary, the trailer for the next episode, but I'm kind of hoping that it is permanent, because, again, it's a very interesting twist on this character that I don't think they've been doing very well ever, really, on this show, because she's always been the exact same, except for small changes that were all very, very forced. But in general, this whole storyline of Haley trying to find out Kara's identity and interrogating all these agents, and then the erasure of all these characters, it was good, it was fine, and there were some good moments. In the end, it kind of was a little pointless for Colonel Haley as a character, but for Alex and all the DEO agents, I do think it was kind of interesting. And also, Brainy was pretty funny throughout it. He was also funny in the entirety of the episode. Again, Brainy is the highlight of every single episode. But that was not the only storyline involving Colonel Haley, Supergirl, Alex, and Martian Manhunter in this episode. There was also the one with these aliens, which I did think the CGI for these aliens was pretty cool, and I think that it was pretty smart to make them invisible just to save money on the CGI, just so that when they do become non-invisible, they did actually look pretty cool. I don't think they could have afforded making these characters or these aliens look this cool at this point, at least, because the ratings are not as high as they used to be for this and all of the Arrowverse shows, really, so they have probably a smaller budget. So making them invisible for the most part was not only a smart move for the budget, but also it kind of made them more unique and interesting, and I did like that quite a lot. Their whole concept goal and the whole fight scenes around these invisible aliens were very interesting, a lot more interesting than usual. I'm pretty sure they're all dead though, so we're not going to see them ever again, but I did like these aliens quite a lot. There was also a storyline with Lena and James, which in my opinion was completely filler. The entire thing was completely filler. Though in the last episode we saw them, I'm pretty sure, I don't really remember that well. This show was so forgettable at times, especially with Lena and James. I don't honestly remember what happened like at all in their last storyline, but I'm pretty sure they like got over every problem they had. In this episode, it was more of that. Really, it was just Lena telling James about the thing she's doing with the Heronel thing, and James saying, fine, I'm okay with that. It was more of that. It was absolutely nothing, in my opinion. It wasn't terrible, but it was also completely pointless and really just padded the runtime, so that was something that I didn't like. But there's also another storyline with Brainy and Nia getting a costume. Now, a costume for Nia was revealed in a poster, which I don't like the costume. I don't understand why Nia has a costume. I never understood why Dream Girl in the comics has a costume. She can tell the future. That doesn't really entail going out to the field. Nia, also the same exact thing. Nia should not have a costume, and Nia should not be a superhero. But anyway, this whole storyline was also, like I said in the last time I saw Nia and her whole origin story, it's probably the most boring superpower for a superhero, most boring origin story for a superhero I've ever seen on a TV show. So I started this video talking about the continuation of the cliffhanger of episode 8, but that is not actually where the episode begins. The episode begins showing a scene of the Red Daughter, which we have seen similar scenes throughout the season so far. It's definitely going to lead up to something in this season. I don't know when, but it will. Now, I've never given my opinion about what I think about whether or not they should be using this storyline, whether I like this storyline. Now, one thing I'll say is that it's probably the most interesting thing they're doing this season, which is telling you a lot because it's not actually that interesting. It's kind of more of the same in terms of we've already seen an evil Supergirl in Crisis on Earth X, which they're doing the same thing here with an evil Supergirl from a different country becoming evil because they're from that country. With Kara on Crisis on Earth X, it was Germany and Nazis, and here it's Russia and communism, so that is definitely more of the same. Also, just the title of the Red Sun storyline for Superman does not work for a female character like Supergirl, because for a male, it's a play on words of Red Sun, the sun of Russia and communism, as well as the Red Sun, as opposed to the Yellow Sun, while here for Supergirl, it's Red Daughter, which doesn't work. And yes, that is just a title. In the long run, titles don't really mean anything, all except for like just getting you excited for something, drawing you in to something, and just realizing how the title really affects the actual storyline. This is just a play on words, but I still think it's kind of metaphorical and symbolizes the fact that this is a Superman storyline that will not work for a Supergirl TV show unless it focuses around Superman, which it is not doing. I don't think they should be adapting Superman storylines, but that being said, this is still probably the most interesting thing they're doing this season, and this scene at the beginning is a pretty decent start to this episode. In conclusion, Supergirl returns from its mid-season break with one of its best episodes yet this season, which is really sad when you think about it, because this episode is fine. It's not bad like most of season 4 is, and it's not great like one of the best episodes of the season so far should definitely be. This season has been trash so far, and this episode, which is, I'm giving it a 7.7 out of 10, is one of the best episodes of the season, which is just kind of pathetic. So let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments, as well as in the poll in the top right corner of the video. If you want to see more reviews, or I guess you can just call it rants, of Supergirl Season 4, a link will be in the top right corner of the video, as well to a playlist. That playlist will also be at the end of the video in the end screen. But anyway, as always, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.